Hi everybody and welcome to the Flute Practice. My name is Tatiana and today we are going to be looking at some ways in which you can get these guys a whole lot faster. So let's go check it out. One of the first things that you really want to check in with is what your hands and your fingers are doing. I found in my own playing that when I had really kind of like stiff, tense, often quite kind of straight or locked fingers, I just couldn't get the speed and the evenness that I wanted to get. So what I'm really going to encourage you is spend time looking for balance and looking for freedom in your hands and your fingers. Now, you know, there are so many different opinions about hand position and which hand positions are better and so on and so forth. And I don't really think there is any like one hand position that is for everybody. I think everybody has to kind of find what works for their hands. We all have these beautifully different hands and we kind of just got to figure out, you know, what is best for us. I do have some golden rules that I usually teach my students, which is to keep those fingers in the most natural position as possible. And what I find is that straight locked fingers is just not a natural way for us to move our fingers. So I prefer to think of much rounder, more natural curved fingers. Also not kind of like tense little blocks. You can go to the extreme with all of this stuff. I'm not talking about like bent fingers. I'm talking just natural round shapes. Generally, if I sort of think about grabbing onto a ball or a sort of sock or something, and that kind of round shape, released round shape that you get is more or less what I try to aspire to in this hand as well. Same thing here, in fact. Also, I did a video actually where I put a little kind of ball or sock in there, but just feeling this kind of round, open shape here, rather than tensing or pushing up here or closing up. Very important, I think, is not to have the thumb too far over to that side. The reason being is what it does right over here, which is it closes this off. Now, you know, you can do this really simple test. If you put your finger or your thumb over there and try and move your fingers, and if you release your thumb, shake it out and release your thumb and you know, let it just kind of sit where it wants to sit, you will feel instantly the, you know, the freedom in your fingers. So you want to play around and feel, you know, are your fingers really as free as they can be? If they are not, my friends, you can stand on your head. You're never going to get the speed that you would like. Another big topic that's often debated in the flute world, and I have actually done a video on this as well, is distance of the fingers from the keys. Now I'm going to come kind of at two perspectives to this today, and that is if your fingers are too far away from the keys, if they're really kind of slapping down from dizzying heights, and especially if they're doing this in quite a kind of tense, forceful way, you're never going to get the speed, the agility and the lightness that you need to be able to play. On the other hand, however, if your fingers are too close and a little bit too lethargic, you are also losing out on speed and agility and really kind of just being able to send energy and use your fingers when you really need them. So you want to check, you know, in a mirror, you really just want to check, what are your fingers doing? Are they really moving, you know, as far away as they need to, or are they doing excessive movements, or perhaps they are really not doing enough? This is something, once again, I'm going to encourage all of you just to play around with and feel and see what works. A lot of this process of figuring out, you know, how to get our fingers a little bit more agile and quick comes from really us feeling, experimenting, getting kind of in touch with our body and our fingers and what's going on, and feeling where there's tension and feeling where there's release and so on and so forth. So I'm sorry to say it, guys, there aren't kind of any quick fixes to this, but I'm going to give you some tips just to kind of explore this process, which is what we are doing today. What I often like to think about a little bit more than kind of like putting down my fingers, I like to think a little bit more of lifting up my fingers. I think for me, this gives me a much more kind of energetic, active feeling, and also kind of takes away from thinking too much of distance, and rather I just think of the lift, and as much as I need to lift for the fingers to be free is how much I lift. So for example, I'm doing scale. I'm really thinking of that lift, and you can do it quite slowly and just think of these fingers lifting rather than going down. Of course, on the way up it's easier. When you're going down as well though, so especially in things like E to F, rather than thinking about putting down the F sharp, think about lifting the E. You know, it's a small little mental shift or change of mind, but I think it really changes your perspective and really helps rather think of releasing and opening and freeing rather than like, I've got to press down each note. Another really important thing is you want to check the movement of your fingers. Now there's kind of like two parts to this. The one is you want to check when you are doing any, finger combinations, whatever you're playing, whether it's in a piece, a study, exercises, that you're not moving fingers unnecessarily. So for example, often what will happen in those high register, those, strange crossover fingerings, you start moving like extra fingers, or, maybe even just slightly lifting another finger, you're getting a bit of, unclean fingerings. You want to make sure that only the fingers that really need to move. So for example, from E to F, I'm very aware that this finger is staying put and that only these three fingers have to move. And I am not even sending any impulses to this finger or this finger to move them at all. I am really keeping them quite calm and making sure I'm really only moving the three fingers that need to move. The other thing that you really want to check up on is something that I realized I was doing at some point. And I've seen so many of my students do this. It's kind of what I often refer to as like a double action. So basically you put your finger down, and instead of just putting it down and leaving it there, you kind of compress that joint in. So every movement of the finger has that and then that. So that's why I call it double action, because it's 1, 2. Sort of you put it down and then you have to kind of have a double action. Now the problem with this habit is it's completely and absolutely unnecessary. It is doing nothing for your sound. It is doing nothing for your playing. It is just a habit. And you are basically slowing down, because every time your finger has to do this kind of double movement just to go down, which means when you really are, you are just ever, it might be so slight, but you are getting in the way of your fingers really just moving. So I had to kind of train my fingers to just go down and stay like that. And in the beginning, it feels quite scary. It feels like you're almost doing too little, or like you're not in control. That's often the big one. You feel like you're not in control. So this is kind of going to bring me right into my next point, which is do all of this stuff so slowly. Guys, you are wanting to do it so slowly so that you can really listen, that you can feel, and that you can see. So also in front of a mirror, you're going to go through technical exercises and whatever it is that you're doing really slowly to check all these different aspects and to make sure that really every single finger combination is doing, exactly what it should be doing. And really checking, sometimes it's not all your fingers that do that double action. Sometimes it's just one finger and one little movement in the hand. And what you also then need to figure out, is it like a hand balance problem? Is it just your finger, that maybe has gotten used to that movement, whatever it is, but you really want to be light switched on and really just focusing in. Guys, even if you don't have a problem with speed, these are things that you actually really want to just spend time looking at in your practice, because you never know what you discover, and you never know where you can actually just kind of step it up to the next level when it comes to your fingers and your technique. The other little thing to remember with the speed and with slowing things down, even though you're going to play things slowly, you want to still keep the fingers very active and move them fast. So you don't want to slow down the fingers. So you don't want to, even there already I'm moving them a little bit faster, but you don't want to keep them kind of lethargic and slow. You actually want to move them very quickly, but just stay on the note. So and you can see again, I'm thinking of those lifting action, and I'm thinking of moving fingers quite fast and actively and precisely, because I want to train this movement. I want to train this feeling of having very fast, active, precise fingers, and I don't want to train the lethargic, slow, kind of sluggish fingers. Kind of counterproductive. The last thing you really want to check in on, and this kind of perhaps maybe sounds the craziest to all of you, but you want to check on having a really free mind and body when you're doing this stuff. Now this, starting to sound like really hippie, but the truth is that this stuff is so connected. I mean, if you have got tension in your shoulders, you are going to feel it in your hands. So if you are holding and playing your flute with any kind of tension here, whether it's lifting a little bit, whether it's even just a very slight bit of a kind of pull up here, you are going to experience that tension all the way into your fingers. Guys, I mean, simple exercise, hold your shoulder and move your fingers, release your shoulder and move your fingers. You should hopefully feel the difference. If you don't, we can have a chat about this in the comments section. Many students say, I don't feel difference. There are also reasons for this. But even, you can take this a step further. For some of you that maybe are quite in touch with what your body is doing, kind of clench your toes and feel how you will feel actually a little bit of tension in your shoulders and in your neck even with that. Or perhaps like lock your knees or clench your knees. Guys, we are going to do like a whole session on posture and all that stuff hopefully coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I'm very excited about this. But pretty much you just want to really make sure that this whole instrument of your body is free and loose and happy. And the same thing goes for your mind, guys. If you are like stressed or anxious, or maybe even just not believing that you can ever play fast or move your fingers fast, or that maybe you think secretly, that you've got a block, that you're like, I will never be able to play fast, or I'm never going to be a good flute player, or I'm never going to be a good musician. Guys, these are all things you want to check. You want to get under control, under wraps, because they are going to have a huge impact on your practice and on your ability to do what it is you want to do. All right, guys, I'm going to give you some cool exercises that you can practice to really get your finger speed up to standard. One of my really favorite exercises is that Marcel Moy's 480 exercise. I mean, that whole book is just great, but that first exercise is a really great exercise for really just slowly going through each and every single one of those finger combinations and making sure that they're all working well, that your fingers are not doing extra movements, that your hands are nice and balanced, the whole works. The other really nice exercise to do is any of your trill exercises. And in the flute bootcamp that we just did, I did a whole bunch of kind of trill workout stuff. It's so great for finger strength, finger agility, and finger speed ultimately, because trills are probably the fastest your fingers are really ever going to move, and we want to make sure they are really nice and controlled. What I love about trills as well, in order to play a trill, you kind of have to like release the finger. Yes, you're moving a lot, but you can never play a trill if you are tense. It's one of the most like free your fingers has to be in order to move that fast. Another really nice exercise is that Mechanisma Chromatisma by Marcel Moyes. We also did this, I think, in the very last day of the Flute Bootcamp, that lovely chromatic exercise. But once again, this whole book is great and really worth checking out for finger speed and finger agility. Also practice the stuff with a metronome. Really, 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 really great, because it just helps you control those fingers as well. Of course, Taffanel, Gaubert, number 1 and 2, great exercises to do for finger speed. Wonderful, wonderful guys. And there's some really nice practice books from Trevor Y. Both, he's got like a complete daily exercise. He also got specific practice books for technique and finger technique. I think his 6th book is really nice. I haven't worked with this a lot, disclaimer, but from what I have seen about it, it looks really, really, really great for finger combinations and working out finger combinations. So go and check out those books as well if you've got them. If you don't have them, I am putting links to all the stuff below. As you know, the Taffanel Gaubert is free online, so I'm going to pop that link down below as well. Guys, happy practicing, happy exploring this awesome, exciting journey of improving your finger technique and getting these guys faster. If you are new to this channel, you might want to hit that subscribe button and keep up to date with the videos coming up. You can also click the little gray bell, and then you get notifications when my new videos come out. Until then, everybody, happy practicing and see you next time.